What if the man who shattered your world 8 years ago suddenly reappeared, his life hanging by a thread, and you were the only one who could save him? Would you choose duty over the deep, burning desire for a justice that never came? We need more blood. Stat! Dr. Olivia Hayes shouted, her voice cutting through the controlled chaos of the ER, as she pressed down hard on the gaping wound. The bloodied body of the man on the gurney was a stark contrast to the sterile white sheets beneath him, his life ebbing away with each passing second. The medical team worked at lightning speed, a symphony of urgent efficiency. Olivia lifted her gaze for a fleeting instant, and time seemed to stop. That face, despite the gruesome cuts and swelling, she would recognize it anywhere. Dr. Hayes, are you all right? A nurse's concerned voice pulled her back from the precipice of memory. Yes, she responded, her voice surprisingly steady, though her hands trembled, betraying the storm raging within her. Continue the transfusion. Michael Bell, the very man who had abandoned her 8 years ago when she told him she was pregnant, the man who never answered her desperate calls, the man who now, impossibly, depended on her and her alone to stay alive. For agonizing hours later, Olivia stepped out of the operating room, peeling off her blood-stained gloves and tossing them into the biohazard container. She took a deep, shaky breath and leaned heavily against the cool wall. Her legs threatened to give way beneath her, but her face remained an impassive mask. Years of practice of meticulously hiding her own pain. Doctor, the patient is stable. We're transferring him to intensive care. A resident informed her, his voice tired but respectful. Thank you. I'll handle his file personally. Arriving home, the clock on her nightstand read 3 in the morning. The small apartment was silent, peaceful. Olivia went straight to Sophie's room, as she did every night, to watch her sleep. Her 8-year-old daughter, a perfect, innocent reflection of Michael, hugged a worn teddy bear, her small face serene in the soft glow of the night light. Rough shift. Mrs. Davis, Olivia's mother, asked softly from her bedroom doorway. You have no idea, Mom, Olivia replied, massaging the tension from her neck, the weight of the day settling heavily on her shoulders. You should be sleeping. At my age, sleep comes and goes. Want some tea? In the small kitchen, as the water boiled, Olivia finally allowed a choked sob to escape. I operated on him today, Mom. On Michael. The teacup Mrs. Davis was holding trembled in her hand. What? He's in Chicago? How? A car accident. He arrived at the ER, completely mangled. Olivia wiped away a rebellious tear, her composure cracking. He didn't even recognize me. And what are you going to do? Her mother asked, her voice filled with a quiet concern. My job. Save him. And make damn sure he never knows Sophie is his daughter. Mrs. Davis took her daughter's trembling hands in hers. Olivia, it's been 8 years. Maybe. No, Mom. Olivia's voice was firm, resolute. He has no right to just show up now and destroy what we've built. Sophie is fine without him. But the girl asks about her father more and more, and I've answered what we agreed, that he's far away and can't be with us. The silence filled the kitchen until Sophie appeared in the doorway, rubbing her sleepy eyes. Mommy, you're home, she cried, running to hug her. Olivia held her tight, desperately trying to hide the tears that threatened to escape, to shield her daughter from the storm raging within her. Yes, my love. I'm here now. I had a dream about Daddy, Sophie said suddenly, her innocent words a sharp pang in Olivia's heart. Olivia exchanged an alarmed glance with her mother. Oh, really? And what did you dream? That he came to visit us and brought me a present. Will he ever come see us, Mommy? Olivia swallowed hard, the lie catching in her throat. It's time to go back to bed, sweetie. You have school tomorrow. What would you do if faced with saving the life of someone who deeply hurt you? Would compassion win? Or would the scars of the past be too deep to ignore? Share your thoughts below. What if the eyes of the man you tried to forget slowly opened, forcing you to confront a past you thought buried, and threatening to unravel the fragile piece you've painstakingly built for your child? The next day, Dr. Olivia Hayes reviewed Michael Bell's vital signs. The monitor showed a steady improvement. She observed his face, now less swollen, the sharp lines of his features more defined. The years hadn't been entirely unkind. The laugh lines around his eyes, the subtle silver at his temples. She wondered what he had done all this time, who he had been with. When will he wake up? A voice asked from the doorway. Olivia turned, surprised. An elegant woman, impeccably dressed, observed her with a cool, appraising gaze. "Are you family?" Olivia inquired, maintaining her professional composure. "I'm Eleanor Vance, his assistant. The company sent me to check on his condition." "Mr. Bell suffered severe trauma," Olivia explained. "It's likely he'll regain consciousness within the next 24 hours, but he'll need significant time to recover fully." "I understand. I'll leave my contact information at the reception." When the woman left, Olivia pulled up Michael's file. Michael Bell, 36, businessman, no known allergies. No children. Those last two words sent a familiar pang through her heart. That night, as she finished her rounds, Olivia noticed activity in Michael's room. She approached and found him slowly opening his eyes, his gaze unfocused. "Where am I?" he murmured, his voice hoarse. Olivia adjusted his foredrip, her movements precise, her professional mask firmly in place. "You're in the hospital. You had an accident. I'm Dr. Hayes. I'm in charge of your case." Michael stared at her intently, as if trying to decipher a complex puzzle. "Do I know you?" he whispered, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. Olivia felt the air leave her lungs, but her expression remained impassive. "It's normal to experience confusion after a trauma like yours. Rest now, Mr. Bell." And without giving him time to respond, she quickly left the room, determined to keep her secret safe, even if it meant facing the ghost of the man who had broken her heart every single day. Michael tried to sit up, but a sharp pain shot through his side, forcing him back down. The hospital room spun around him. Fragments of the accident, blurry and chaotic, flashed in his memory. Blinding lights, the screech of tires, the sickening impact. But there was something else, something that unsettled him more than the crash itself. The doctor. There was something profoundly, disturbingly familiar about her. "Good morning, Mr. Bell," Olivia said, entering the room the next morning, her voice crisp, professional, distant. "How are you feeling today?" "Like I've been run over by a truck," he replied, his gaze fixed on her, studying her every feature. "We know each other, don't we?" Olivia checked his monitors, meticulously avoiding his eyes. "I've already explained that confusion is normal after a trauma of this nature." "I'm not confused," he insisted, his voice gaining strength. "Your face. I remember it." "I'll order some additional tests," she said, deliberately changing the subject. "Your recovery is progressing well, but we want to rule out any complications." Michael gently grabbed her arm as she passed by his bed. The unexpected contact sent an electric shock through Olivia's skin. "Please," he pleaded, his eyes searching hers. "If we know each other, just tell me." She pulled her arm away firmly. "Rest, Mr. Bell." That afternoon, in the hospital cafeteria, Olivia was distractedly stirring her coffee when Mrs. Davis, her mother, arrived with Sophie. "Mommy!" the little girl exclaimed, running to hug her. "My love, what are you doing here?" Olivia asked, kissing her forehead. "You forgot this at home," Mrs. Davis said, handing her a folder. "And Sophie insisted on seeing you." "I drew this for you," Sophie said, extending a colorful piece of paper. "It's our family, you, Grandma, and me. And I also drew Daddy, even though I don't know what he looks like." Olivia stared at the drawing. A male stick figure with a question mark for a face stood separate from the rest. "It's beautiful, my love." "Is he very far away?" Sophie asked with childlike innocence. Olivia exchanged a look with her mother. "Let's go to my office. We can talk better there." Once in her small, cluttered office, Sophie played with a stethoscope while Olivia and Mrs. Davis spoke in low tones. You can't keep hiding it from him, honey, her mother insisted. He's here in the same hospital just a few floors away. And what do you want me to do, Mom? Tell him? Hi, Michael. Remember me? The woman you abandoned when she was pregnant? Oh, and by the way, you have an 8-year-old daughter? He has a right to know. A right. Olivia clenched her fists. He lost that right when he disappeared from my life. And what about Sophie's rights? The question hung in the air, heavy and unanswered, when the door opened. Dr. Hayes, excuse me, a nurse interrupted. The patient in 304 is asking for you. Mr. Bell needs to wait his turn like everyone else. Olivia responded, irritated. It's just that he's quite agitated. He says he needs to speak with you urgently. Olivia sighed. Take Sophie home, Mom. This is going to be a long day. When she entered Michael's room, he was standing by the window, the hospital gown barely covering his back. What are you doing out of bed? She asked, her voice sharp with authority. You need to rest. Olivia, he said simply, turning to face her. Olivia Rodriguez. Now Hayes, according to your name tag. Olivia's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. Mr. Bell, please get back into bed. Why didn't you tell me who you were? That's not relevant to your treatment. Not relevant? Michael let out a bitter laugh. You disappeared 8 years ago, and now you show up as my doctor. Coincidence? The world is a small place. Now, if you don't get back into bed, I'll have to request another doctor for your case. Michael reluctantly obeyed. His eyes never stopped studying her, as if searching for pieces of a forgotten puzzle. You look good, he murmured. Different but good. We're not here to talk about me. Your X-rays show. I saw the photo on your ID badge, he interrupted, his voice suddenly intense. A little girl? Is she your daughter? Olivia froze for a second. My personal life is none of your concern. How old is she? He insisted. Mr. Bell, this is inappropriate. She's 8 years old, isn't she? Michael looked directly into her eyes, his own gaze piercing. Her eyes. They're just like mine. The silence that followed was deafening. Olivia could hear her own heart pounding in her ears. I'll finish the examination and send another doctor for your follow-up, she finally said, turning towards the door. She's my daughter, isn't she? Michael's voice trembled. That's why you disappeared. Olivia stopped, her hand on the doorknob, her back to him. You'll be discharged tomorrow. Have a good afternoon, Mr. Bell. As she walked down the hallway, the tears she had held back for so long began to fall. 8 years of secrets were threatening to crumble. In her pocket, Sophie's drawing felt as heavy as lead. What if the truth you desperately tried to conceal was finally forced into the light, and the past you ran from returned with a vengeance, threatening not just your fragile peace, but the very life of the child you sought to protect? You have no right, Dr. Olivia Hayes exclaimed, slamming the door of her consultation room shut with a force that made the diplomas on the wall rattle. Michael Bell had intercepted her as she was leaving the hospital, his presence an unwelcome intrusion. His eyes, though marked by the recent trauma, burned with a new, unsettling determination. No right, he countered, leaning heavily on her desk to maintain his balance. His recent discharge clearly premature. To know my own daughter? Your daughter. Olivia let out a dry, humorless laugh. She's your daughter now? 8 years ago, she was just a problem you decided to escape from. Michael lowered his gaze for a fleeting moment, a flicker of shame in his eyes. I never knew you went through with the pregnancy. And what did you expect? That I'd have an abortion just because you disappeared? Olivia crossed her arms, her body rigid with suppressed anger. I called you hundreds of times. Your number was disconnected. I went to your apartment. Empty. As if you had never existed. Things weren't like that, Michael tried to explain, taking a hesitant step closer, but Olivia recoiled as if burned. My father was dying. I had to go back to Boston in an emergency. And then everything with the company got complicated. And you couldn't make a single call? Send one message? Nothing in 8 years. Olivia's voice dripped with sarcasm and a deep, lingering pain. I tried to find you later, he insisted, his voice pleading. But you had changed your number, your address. No one knew where you were. Olivia shook her head, incredulous. Save your excuses, Michael. I'm not here to listen to them. I just want to meet her. His voice cracked, raw with a desperate longing. Please. Sophie is fine, Olivia stated, her voice firm. She has a stable, happy life. She doesn't need you to suddenly appear and confuse her. Sophie? He repeated, savoring the name, a bittersweet smile on his lips. Does she have my last name? No, Olivia replied curtly. She's Sophie Hayes Rodriguez. My daughter. The pain in Michael's eyes was evident, but Olivia remained steadfast. At least show me a photo, he pleaded, his voice barely a whisper. Olivia hesitated, then finally pulled out her phone and showed him a picture of Sophie smiling, a missing front tooth adding to her charm. Michael stared at the image in silence, gently tracing the outline of Sophie's face on the screen with his fingertip. She looks just like my sister when she was little, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. The moment was shattered by the shrill beep of Michael's cell phone. As he glanced at the screen, his expression changed dramatically, a wave of alarm washing over his face. I have to go, he said, visibly shaken. But this conversation isn't over. For me, Olivia retorted, her voice cold. It ended 8 years ago. That night, Olivia arrived home to a throbbing headache. Sophie was in the living room diligently drawing. What are you doing, my love? Olivia asked, sitting beside her. I'm inventing what my daddy looks like. The little girl replied matter-of-factly. I gave him a beard because my friends' daddies have beards. Olivia felt a familiar knot tighten in her throat. Sophie, would you like to meet your daddy? The little girl looked up, surprised. Can he come visit us? Not exactly, but... Olivia searched for the right words, her mind racing. What if I told you he's closer than we thought? Before Sophie could respond, the doorbell rang. Mrs. Davis, Olivia's mother, opened the door. Sophie, go to your room for a moment, Olivia ordered, seeing who it was. Michael stood in the threshold, pale as a ghost, his expensive clothes disheveled, a stark contrast to his usual impeccable appearance. How did you get my address? Olivia demanded in a low voice, stepping out into the hallway. Dr. Miller is a friend of mine, he replied, his voice strained. Olivia, I just received the worst news of my life, and I needed to see you. What are you talking about? My business partner, Ernesto Vance, has been embezzling funds from the company for years. In my name, the DA is investigating, and they've frozen all my accounts. Michael ran a trembling hand through his hair. I've lost everything, Olivia. Everything. Olivia stared at him, searching for any sign of manipulation, but she only saw genuine, raw despair. I'm sorry, she said, her voice softening despite herself. But that's not my problem. I didn't come to ask you for money, Michael responded, a flicker of his old pride returning. I came because... His voice broke. Because I have no one else. At that moment, the apartment door opened again, and Sophie peeked her head out. Mommy! Michael stood motionless, staring at the little girl in stunned silence. Sophie, curious, stepped out into the hallway. Hello, she said shyly. Hello, Michael replied, his voice barely a breath. Sophie, please go back inside, Olivia requested, her voice strained. Who is he? The little girl asked, ignoring her mother's order. Just a patient from the hospital, Olivia stammered. Sophie observed Michael with an intense curiosity, as if trying to solve a complex puzzle. Then, surprising both adults, she extended her small hand. I'm Sophie. Want to see my drawings? Michael looked at Olivia, silently asking for permission. She subtly shook her head. Maybe another time, Sophie, he said, his voice gentle. Your mom and I have to talk about grown-up things. The little girl pouted with disappointment before returning to the apartment. She's perfect, Michael murmured when the door closed. Don't use my daughter as a distraction from your problems, Olivia warned, her voice sharp. If you really want to be part of her life, prove it with actions, not just words. What do you want me to do? Nothing. I don't want anything from you. Michael straightened, a flicker of his old composure returning. I do want something. I want to know my daughter. And I will, Olivia, even if I have to start from scratch. His tone was resolute. I'm not disappearing again. He turned and walked towards the elevator. Olivia watched him go, torn between resentment and an unexpected, unwelcome compassion. I'll see you tomorrow at Central Park, she finally called out, her voice hesitant. At 4. Just 10 minutes. Michael nodded before the elevator doors closed. Olivia returned to the apartment, where Sophie awaited her with eyes full of questions. That man looks like the daddy I drew, the little girl said, showing her the notebook. Olivia looked at the drawing, then at her daughter. The weight of so many years of secrets was becoming unbearable. What if the fall from grace became the unexpected path to redemption, forcing a man to rebuild his life from scratch and fight for the only connections that truly mattered? Olivia watched from a park bench, a knot of apprehension tightening in her stomach. A few meters away, Michael Bell waited nervously, constantly checking his watch. The sky threatened rain, but neither of them seemed to notice, their attention consumed by the impending encounter. Remember, just 10 minutes, Olivia reminded Sophie, who bounced impatiently beside her. And don't tell him who he is yet. He's a friend. Why are you so serious, Mommy? The little girl asked, adjusting the ribbon in her hair, her innocent eyes wide with curiosity. I'm not serious, Olivia lied, forcing a smile. Go on, he's waiting for you. Sophie ran towards Michael, who awkwardly knelt to meet her eye level. Olivia watched the scene from a distance, her heart pounding, a whirlwind of emotions churning within her. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but she saw Sophie gesturing animatedly, her face alight with excitement, while Michael listened intently, nodding, completely absorbed in every word. 10 minutes stretched into 20. When Sophie finally returned, she was practically bouncing with joy. He's super fun, Mommy. He knows all the capital cities in the world, just like me. And he told me he used to collect colorful stones when he was a kid too. Olivia looked at Michael, who remained a discreet distance away, his gaze hopeful. That's great, my love. It's time to go. Can he come visit us someday? Sophie asked, her eyes shining. We'll see, Olivia replied evasively. Say goodbye now. Over the following weeks, life took an unexpected turn. One afternoon, while Olivia was grocery shopping, she saw Michael at the entrance of a nondescript commercial building. He was wearing a worn suit and handing out business cards to uninterested passersby. Valley Insurance. Michael Bell, financial advisor. She read on a card he offered to a man who walked past without a second glance. Olivia quickly hid behind a fruit stand, observing him. His face reflected a profound weariness, but he maintained a forced, almost painful smile. Nothing remained of the arrogant, powerful businessman she had known years ago. Dr. Hayes. Michael's voice startled her. He had approached without her noticing. I was just passing by, she stammered, feeling a strange mix of discomfort and an unwelcome sympathy. Are you selling insurance now? Michael nodded, stuffing the cards into his pocket. Life takes many turns. I lost the company, the house, the car, practically everything, he said, without a trace of self-pity. But I'm still moving forward. Where are you living? I'm renting a room at the Lopez boarding house, near the station. It's not the Marriott, but it has hot water and Wi-Fi. He offered a sad, self-deprecating smile. How's Sophie? She's fine. She asks about you. An uncomfortable silence settled between them. Michael, don't say anything, he interrupted, his voice gentle. I didn't seek you out to make you feel sorry for me. I just want the chance to get to know my daughter, even if it's just a little. Olivia nodded slightly. I'll call you, she said before walking away. her heart heavy with unspoken emotions. A week later, Sophie ran into the coffee shop where Olivia was waiting for her after school. Mommy, I saw him. I saw Mr. Michael. Olivia nearly spilled her coffee. Where? At the coffee shop across from my school. He was sitting alone, reading the newspaper. The little girl explained with breathless enthusiasm. He didn't see me, but I saw him. He looked sad, Mommy. Why is he sad? Olivia remained silent, processing the information, a knot tightening in her chest. Can I visit him again? Sophie pressed. He promised to teach me how to play chess. When did he promise you that? At the park. He said his dad taught him when he was my age. That night, as Sophie slept, Olivia talked to her mother in the kitchen. I don't know what to do, Mom. Seeing him like this, so different, so human. Money and power change people, honey, Mrs. Davis said wisely. Sometimes, losing everything is the only thing that brings us back to our humanity. And what if he's just pretending to get close to Sophie? For what purpose? He has nothing left. Olivia bit her lip, undecided. Sophie deserves to know her father, Mrs. Davis continued, her voice gentle. And he seems genuinely interested in being part of her life. At least, give him that chance. I was so scared all these years, Olivia confessed, her voice trembling. Scared he would show up with his lawyers and his money and take her away from me. And now that he's lost everything, are you still afraid? Olivia shook her head. It wasn't fear she felt anymore. It was something more complex, older. A wound that had never properly healed. What if a sudden medical crisis shattered the fragile truce, forcing a desperate mother to confront the truth about her ex-husband's hidden vulnerability and revealing the surprising depths of her own compassion? The next morning, Dr. Olivia Hayes called Michael Bell. Sophie can visit you once a week, she said without preamble, her voice firm but fair. As long as I'm present, and you respect certain rules. Really? Michael's voice lit up with an undeniable joy. Thank you, Olivia. I promise you won't regret it. Don't make promises you can't keep, she responded. The memory of past, broken promises still a faint ache. And one more thing. We still won't tell her who you really are, not until she's ready. I understand. Whatever you decide is fine. The first official meeting took place at a small coffee shop near the hospital. Michael arrived early, clutching a travel chess set and a small, neatly wrapped gift. Sophie ran towards him as soon as she saw him. You brought the chess set, she exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. And something else, he said, handing her the package. It was a collection of colorful stones, each one meticulously labeled with its scientific name. For your collection, Michael explained, a soft smile on his face. Mine was lost many years ago, but I remember every single stone. Sophie impulsively hugged him. The gesture caught Michael by surprise, and he looked at Olivia with moist eyes. She looked away, but a faint, almost imperceptible nod acknowledged the moment. As father and daughter began their first chess lesson, Olivia watched them from a distance. Something was changing, slowly but inexorably, like a wound finally beginning to heal. The visits between Michael and Sophie became a cherished routine. Every Thursday at 5, Olivia would observe them from a nearby table, as they played chess, drew pictures, or simply talked. The little girl blossomed with these visits, bringing new questions, new discoveries to share each week. It's amazing how much they look alike, Mrs. Davis commented one afternoon, her voice thoughtful. The same gestures when they're concentrating. The same laugh. Olivia nodded pensively. Seeing Michael with Sophie stirred a complex mix of emotions within her. Sometimes, when she saw them laughing together, she felt a sharp pang of regret for the years they had lost. Other times, a strange, unexpected peace settled over her, as if an incomplete circle was finally finding its closure. One day, while walking through the hospital corridors, Olivia noticed Michael in the waiting room. "What are you doing here?" she asked, surprised. "Today isn't Thursday." Michael looked up, his face pale, weary. "I have an appointment with Dr. Evans," he responded, forcing a smile. Nothing important, just a routine checkup. Evans, Olivia's professional instincts kicked in. He's a cardiologist. After the accident, there were some lingering issues, Michael admitted, downplaying it with a dismissive gesture. Probably nothing serious. Olivia narrowed her eyes, her medical training instantly on alert. What symptoms are you having? Fatigue, some pressure in my chest, occasional dizziness, he finally confessed. But I'm fine, really. I don't want to worry Sophie. Are you taking any medication? Just some painkillers they prescribed after the accident. Before she could respond, a nurse called Michael's name. He stood with some difficulty. I'll see you on Thursday, he said, walking away down the hallway. Olivia watched him go, a growing sense of unease settling in her stomach. 3 hours later, Dr. Evans intercepted her in the hospital cafeteria. Hayes, do you know Michael Bell? He asked without preamble. He was my patient. Why? Dr. Evans showed her some test results. He has severe post-traumatic complications. Damage to his aortic valve, probably caused by the impact of the accident. He needs surgery. Olivia reviewed the exams, a cold shiver running down her spine. Did you tell him? Yes, but he didn't seem surprised. I think he already suspected. Dr. Evans paused, his expression grave. The problem is, he doesn't have health insurance that covers the operation. With his current financial situation, Olivia closed her eyes for a moment, the weight of the revelation pressing down on her. What's the prognosis without surgery? 6 months, maybe less. Dr. Evans responded frankly. The valve is severely compromised. At any moment it could. I understand, Olivia interrupted, her voice tight. Where is he now? He left half an hour ago. He didn't want to be admitted. That night, after putting Sophie to bed, Olivia dialed Michael's number. Why didn't you tell me the truth? She asked directly when he answered. A long silence preceded his response. I didn't want to be another burden to you. I'm a doctor, Michael. This is literally my job. And I'm the man who abandoned you 8 years ago. His voice sounded tired, defeated. I have no right to ask you for anything more. This isn't about rights, Olivia responded, surprising even herself with the conviction in her voice. This is about Sophie. She needs you. Olivia, I can't pay for that surgery. I've sold everything I had of value. There are assistance programs. I can talk to the hospital director. Why would you do that? Michael interrupted, his voice filled with disbelief. After everything I did to you, Olivia fell silent, searching for an honest answer. Because Sophie deserves to have a father, she finally said, her voice soft but firm. And because no one should have to go through this alone. What if the past you tried to outrun returned with a vengeance, forcing you to confront your deepest fears and make impossible choices in a desperate race against time to save a life, and perhaps, a fragile new hope? The following Thursday, Michael Bell didn't show up for his usual meeting with Sophie. Dr. Olivia Hayes' daughter waited for an hour, patiently playing chess by herself, repeatedly asking when he would arrive. Maybe he had a problem at work, Olivia tried to explain, her own unease growing with each passing minute. I'll call him later, but Michael didn't answer his phone. Not that day, nor the next. Worried, Olivia decided to go look for him at the boarding house where he lived. She found him in bed, burning with fever, barely conscious. Michael, she exclaimed, rushing to his side. How long have you been like this? 2 days, he murmured, trying to sit up. Didn't want to bother you. You're an idiot, she said, quickly checking his vital signs, her medical training kicking in. I'm calling an ambulance. No, I can't pay for it, he protested weakly. Shut up and let me do my job. At the hospital, Michael was diagnosed with an infection related to his heart condition. Dr. Evans was clear. Without immediate surgery, his chances were minimal. I've spoken with the committee, Olivia informed Michael when he awoke, his eyes cloudy with fever. They've agreed to include you in the subsidized care program. How did you manage that? He asked, surprised, his voice raspy. Let's just say I had some pending favors, she replied, adjusting his pillow. The surgery is scheduled for Monday. Michael weakly took her hand, stopping her. I'm scared, he confessed, his voice barely audible. Not for me, Olivia, but for Sophie. For not having enough time to really know her. Olivia felt a lump in her throat. You'll have time, she assured him, gently squeezing his hand. I'll be with you during the surgery. Why? Why are you doing this? Olivia searched for the right words, the honest words. Because it's the right thing to do, she finally said, her gaze steady. They looked at each other in silence, the resentment of 8 years fading away, replaced not by promises, but by a fragile, unspoken understanding. They were two people bound by a shared past and a precarious present, a second chance they hadn't sought, but which now presented itself as an unexpected, daunting path. Thank you, Michael said simply. Olivia nodded and left the room. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall and took a deep, shuddering breath. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a very long time, she was willing to find out. What if the fight for survival unearthed a hidden legacy, a father's last words becoming a daughter's guiding light, forcing her to confront a past filled with pain and make a choice that could redefine her future? The clock read 7 in the morning when Michael was wheeled into the operating room. Olivia, dressed in street clothes instead of her usual medical scrubs, walked beside him as they pushed the gurney. Remember what we talked about, Michael said, his voice weak but resolute. If something goes wrong, nothing is going to go wrong, Olivia interrupted, her voice firm. Dr. Evans is the best cardiologist in the city. Still, he insisted, his gaze pleading. Promise me you'll tell her who I really am. Olivia nodded, briefly squeezing his hand. I promise, but you'll have to do it yourself. At the operating room entrance, Michael stopped her. There's a notebook in my room in the nightstand drawer. It's for Sophie. Before Olivia could respond, the doors closed, separating them. The waiting room was a limbo of suspended time. Olivia, accustomed to being on the other side of those doors, found the uncertainty unbearable. Every minute stretched into an eternity. She checked her phone. A message from Mrs. Davis, her mother, informing her that Sophie had eaten breakfast well and was ready for school. For hours later, Dr. Evans appeared, removing his surgical cap, his face etched with fatigue. We did it, he said, his voice weary but triumphant. The surgery was complicated, but he's stable. Now, everything depends on how he responds in the next 48 hours. Olivia exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Can I see him? In an hour, when they transfer him to recovery. That afternoon, Sophie arrived at the hospital accompanied by Mrs. Davis. The little girl carried a drawing for Michael. Is he very sick? She asked, with a seriousness unusual for her age. Olivia knelt to meet her daughter's gaze. Yes, my love. He's delicate, but the doctors are doing everything they can to make him better. Is he going to die? Sophie's direct question struck Olivia like a physical blow. I don't know, she responded honestly, her voice trembling slightly. But he's fighting very hard to stay. Sophie nodded, processing the information. He's important to you, Mommy. You take good care of him. Olivia looked at her mother, who nodded gently. Michael is a very special person, Sophie. Olivia began, choosing her words carefully. He's your daddy. Sophie's eyes widened enormously. My daddy? The one who was far away. Yes, he's been far away for a long time, but now he wants to meet you and be part of your life. The little girl remained silent for what felt like an eternity. Is that why he looks so much like me? She finally asked. Exactly why, Olivia responded with a sad smile. You have his same eyes. Can I see him? He's sleeping now, but maybe tomorrow. That night, as Sophie slept, Olivia found the notebook Michael had mentioned. It was a journal with entries dated from the day of the accident. She opened it with trembling hands. My dearest Sophie, the first entry read. I don't know if you'll ever read these words, I don't know if I'll have the privilege of watching you grow up. But I want you to know that from the moment I knew you existed, my life changed forever. Olivia read page after page, silent tears streaming down her cheeks. They were letters written over weeks, confessions, regrets, hopes, and dreams for a daughter he was only just beginning to know. On the last page, she found a letter with her name. Olivia, if you're reading this, things probably didn't go as we hoped. I want you to know that these last few months have been a gift I didn't deserve. Seeing our daughter, getting to know her even a little, has been the greatest joy of my life. I'm not asking for forgiveness because I know I don't deserve it. I only ask that you speak of me to her someday. Not of the man who abandoned you, but of the one who came back and tried to make amends, even if it was too late. With love, always, Michael. Olivia closed the notebook, and for the first time in 8 years, she wept without restraint, a torrent of grief and a fragile, burgeoning hope. What if the long road to recovery became a journey of rediscovery, forging an unconventional family bond built on forgiveness, shared hope, and the unwavering love for a child who connected them all? The following days were critical. Michael Bell developed post-operative complications that kept him sedated and closely monitored. Dr. Olivia Hayes divided her time between the hospital, Sophie, and her demanding work, sleeping only when absolutely necessary, fueled by a desperate hope. A week later, Michael finally opened his eyes. "Sophie?" was his first word. "She's at school," Olivia replied, adjusting his foredrip, a wave of relief washing over her. "She'll come later." "You told her?" "Yes. She knows you're her father." A single tear rolled down Michael's cheek. "How did she take it?" "Better than both of us combined," Olivia smiled faintly. "She says she always knew that you have the same eyes." Michael tried to sit up, but a grimace of pain stopped him. "The surgery was successful," Olivia explained, "but you'll have some permanent limitations. Your mobility in your left arm will be reduced, and you'll need constant medication. I'll be able to work eventually. You'll need physical therapy for several months." Michael nodded, absorbing the information. "I want to do it right this time, Olivia. Be the father Sophie deserves, even if it's from a distance." "It doesn't have to be from a distance," she responded, surprising even herself. "Sophie needs her father close." That afternoon, when Sophie entered the room, she stopped at the door, suddenly shy. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi, Sophie," Michael replied, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm sorry I missed our chess game." The little girl slowly approached. "Are you better?" "Much better now that you're here." Sophie looked at Olivia, who nodded gently, then she moved closer to the bed. "Mommy says you're my daddy," she said directly, her gaze unwavering. Michael swallowed hard. "Yes, I am. I'm so sorry I wasn't with you before." "Why weren't you?" "Because I made mistakes, Sophie." "Many mistakes," he responded honestly. "But I'm trying to fix them. If you give me a chance." Sophie seemed to consider it seriously before nodding. "Okay, but you have to promise you won't leave again." "I promise." The little girl smiled, and to the surprise of both adults, she carefully climbed onto the bed and hugged Michael. Olivia watched them from the doorway, feeling something that had been broken for a very long time finally beginning to heal. What if the fragile steps towards a new beginning were paved with shared laughter, patient understanding, and the quiet strength of a family learning to redefine itself, proving that love can indeed find a way, even amidst the deepest scars. The change of season brought with it new beginnings. Michael, after 3 months of intensive physical therapy, had regained partial mobility in his left arm. His body, once weakened, gained strength day by day. But the greatest transformation was not physical. "Are you sure you don't want me to accompany you?" Olivia asked as she helped him pack. He had accumulated a few belongings during his stay in her spare guest room. "This is something I need to do alone," Michael replied, carefully folding a shirt. "You've already done enough, letting me stay here during my recovery." Olivia nodded, remembering the decision she had made to offer him temporary lodging while he recuperated. A practical decision, she had told herself. easier for medical visits, and for Sophie to see him regularly. Nothing more. Have you told Sophie yet? Last night. Michael smiled faintly. She said as long as she can visit me, she'll be happy. The apartment Michael had found was in Lincoln Park, a simple but dignified neighborhood. 2 small bedrooms, a basic kitchen, and a living room that would also serve as a dining area. It's not much, he commented when he showed the place to Olivia and Sophie. But it's a start. The second bedroom he had specially prepared for when Sophie visited. Walls painted light green, her favorite color, a small bookshelf, and a chessboard permanently set up by the window. I love it, the little girl exclaimed, excitedly exploring the space. Can I sleep over someday? Michael looked at Olivia, who nodded gently. Of course, princess, whenever your mom says it's okay. Life began to find a new rhythm. Michael found a job at the neighborhood public library, cataloging books and organizing cultural events. The salary was modest, but enough to support himself and contribute to Sophie's expenses. Once a month, according to the agreement with Olivia, Sophie spent the entire day with him. They visited museums, parks, or simply stayed home playing chess and telling stories. No grand luxuries, no extravagant gifts, just shared time. Olivia observed this evolution with mixed emotions. Michael's transformation was undeniable. The arrogant, self-centered man she had known had become someone thoughtful, patient, acutely aware of his limitations. Do you think they'll ever get back together? Mrs. Davis asked one night, as they watched Sophie pack her backpack for her monthly visit. No, Mom, Olivia replied with certainty. That chapter is closed. But they get along so well now, and he's changed. Yes, he's changed, and I'm happy for Sophie. Olivia smiled with a hint of melancholy. But some wounds, even when they heal, leave scars that can't be ignored. What if a simple gesture, an unexpected invitation, forced you to confront the unspoken truths lingering between past pain and present peace, revealing that some connections, no matter how fractured, never truly fade? Spring arrived with an unexpected invitation. Michael Bell had organized a small children's reading event at the library and wanted Sophie to participate. It would be important for her, he said during one of their weekly calls. And for me too, if you could come. Dr. Olivia Hayes hesitated. Until now, they had kept their interactions to the bare minimum. Drop-offs and pickups for Sophie, brief conversations about school or the little girl's health. Nothing personal, nothing that could complicate the fragile peace they had carefully constructed. I'll think about it, she finally responded. The day of the event, Olivia found herself sitting in the last row of the library's small reading room. Michael, dressed simply but neatly, directed the activity with a natural ease that surprised her. The children adored him. Sophie beamed with pride as she saw her father applauding her reading. When it all ended, Michael approached her timidly. Thank you for coming, he said sincerely. It meant a lot to Sophie. You did well, Olivia replied, a genuine warmth in her voice. You have a talent for this. Want to grab a coffee? The invitation slipped out so spontaneously that it seemed to surprise even him. Olivia felt an impulse to accept, a flicker of her old self, but something held her back. I don't think that's a good idea, Michael. He nodded without insisting. I understand. Just thank you for giving me this chance with Sophie. I know I didn't deserve it. It's not about deserving, she responded. It's about what's best for her. The months passed. The established routine worked. Michael never missed a school meeting, an important event, or his scheduled encounters with Sophie. He punctually paid his share of the expenses and never asked for more time than agreed. One particularly sunny Sunday, Olivia was strolling through Lincoln Park when she saw them in the distance. Michael and Sophie were sitting on the grass, Sophie reading something from a book while he listened with absolute attention. There was no pretense in his attitude, no attempt to impress. Just a father genuinely enjoying the company of his daughter. Olivia stopped, observing them without approaching. Something in that image deeply moved her. It wasn't nostalgia for what could have been, but an acceptance of what was. A reconfigured family, imperfect but functional. Michael looked up and saw her. For a moment, their gazes met across the distance. There was no accusation in his eyes, no expectation, just a quiet recognition. He smiled faintly. She returned the smile. A simple gesture without promises or commitments. Then she turned and continued her walk, her steps light, her heart calm. It wasn't happiness she felt, not exactly. It was something different, more subtle but equally valuable. The peace of having made the right decision, not the easiest one. The certainty that everyone, in their own way, was exactly where they needed to be. As she walked away, Olivia thought of all the possible lives she hadn't lived, all the paths she hadn't taken. And for the first time, she felt no regret for any of them. What if a hidden journal, filled with a father's unspoken regrets and profound love, became the key to unlocking a daughter's understanding, bridging the gap between a painful past and a hopeful future? The afternoon sun streamed through the window, creating golden patterns on the wooden floor. Sophie, now 14, sat on the edge of her bed, holding a small, worn leather-bound journal in her hands. Her fingers traced the pages carefully, as if touching something sacred. "The first time I read this, I was 8, she murmured to herself. I understood the words, but not their meaning. She opened the journal to a page marked with a faded red ribbon. Her father's firm but slightly slanted handwriting filled the paper with blue ink. My dearest Sophie, today you turn 10, a decade of life that, for the most part, I missed. As I write this, I'm watching you sleep on the sofa in my small apartment, after our movie afternoon. You snore softly, just like me, though your mother insists my snores are more like a bear's. It's strange how genetics manifest in these little details." Sophie smiled, remembering that afternoon. It had been the first time her mother had allowed her to sleep over at her father's house. She remembered feeling nervous at first, but the nervousness dissipated with popcorn and shared laughter. She turned a few pages, stopping at another entry. Sometimes I wonder what our life would have been like if I had made different decisions. If I had been present from the beginning. If I had been the man your mother deserved. I can't change the past, but every day I try to earn the right to be in your future. Sophie closed her eyes for a moment, processing the words. For years, these letters had been her window into the soul of a man who was learning to be a father while she was learning to have him in her life. She continued flipping through until she reached almost the end of the journal. An entry dated 3 years ago caught her attention. My dearest Sophie, your mother told me today about your first math award. She was so proud she could barely speak without her voice breaking. She invited me for coffee to show me photos from the ceremony. It's the first time we've shared something like that, without tension, without the weight of the past between us. It's a different kind of family we've formed, but it's our family. I hope someday you understand that loving is also knowing when not to insist. Your mother taught me that. I wanted to get everything back. Her, you, the life we could have had. But she, with her quiet wisdom, showed me that sometimes the greatest love is the one that allows each person to follow their own path. We're not together and we never will be, but we are at peace. And you, my brilliant girl, are the bridge that keeps our separate shores connected. A tear rolled down Sophie's cheek. She closed the journal carefully and looked up. Olivia stood in the doorway, watching her silently. How long have you been there? Sophie asked, wiping her face with the back of her hand. Not long, Olivia replied, entering the room. Are you okay? Sophie nodded, clutching the journal to her chest. I was just remembering, trying to understand. Olivia sat beside her, her hand finding her daughter's. And have you found answers? Some. Sophie looked at her mother with curiosity. Dad writes that you'll never get back together. Did you never forgive him? Olivia smiled with a hint of melancholy. Forgiveness and love are different things, Sophie. I forgave him a long time ago. That allowed us to build this relationship we have now, where we can both be your parents without hurting each other. But you could have tried. Sometimes, Olivia interrupted gently. The greatest act of love is recognizing that two people can care deeply for each other and still not be right for one another. Sophie reflected on these words, caressing the worn cover of the journal. My piano recital is in 2 days. She changed the subject. Dad's coming, right? Of course. He wouldn't miss it for the world. Olivia ran a hand through her daughter's hair. In fact, he called me yesterday to ask if we could sit together this time. And what did you tell him? That yes, Olivia responded naturally. After all, we're a family. Unconventional, but family nonetheless. Sophie smiled, satisfied with the answer. She put the journal in her drawer and stood up, stretching. Grandma made tamales, she reported. She said if we don't go now, she'll eat them all herself. Olivia laughed, rising too. You go ahead. I'll catch up in a minute. When Sophie left, Olivia stood looking at the drawer where the journal was kept. So many years, so many stories, so many moments of pain slowly transformed into acceptance. She remembered the last conversation she had with Michael the previous week, when he picked up Sophie after her monthly visit. They had talked about Sophie's future, about the universities she was considering, about the changes that were coming, without resentment, without regret. Just two adults sharing the most precious thing in their lives. Mom, Grandma's making good on her threat. Sophie's voice pulled her back to the present. I'm coming, she responded, heading towards the door. As she left, she cast one last glance at the room. The past didn't disappear, but it no longer weighed her down as before. It had transformed into lessons, into growth, into the quiet wisdom that only comes after having weathered the storm. No, it wasn't the life she had imagined. It was better. It was real. It was hers. Were you moved by the story of Olivia, Michael, and Sophie? Their lives show us that true love sometimes means letting go, forgiving, and building bridges where walls once stood. Sometimes, second chances arrive in unexpected ways, and family can take forms we never imagined. Share this video if you felt that mix of emotions that only real stories can evoke. Leave us a comment telling us which part touched your heart the most. And if you want to keep discovering stories that explore the complexity of human relationships, subscribe to our channel and tell us, where are you watching this story of forgiveness and second chances from?